Well, at least they tried. See, Resident Evil Netflix 2022, Resident Evil 2022, Resident Evil Netflix, however the hell you want to call it. I feel like it had a lot of potential. The show told two stories, one in the past, 2022, and then one 14 years later, 14 years into the zombie apocalypse. Now, in 2022, they allude to a tragedy in Raccoon City. There's people living in New Raccoon City, but there's a lot of not illusions, but they allude to a lot of the original Raccoon City. And we discover that the city was nuked, much like in the original games. So it's like, okay, this is a continuation of the games themselves, of the original story. The T-virus got out, the zombies happened, they destroyed Raccoon City, it didn't spread. But then the new story happens, the current story that we're getting in the show, and it, of course, happens anyway. And I honestly think that's where the show went wrong. You see, I am a huge, huge fan of the Resident Evil game series. Absolutely love it. It's probably my favorite series of games. And coming up with a new story to continue the original stories, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If done right, this could have been absolutely fantastic. But instead, we get a ridiculous amount of clones of Albert Wesker for some reason, and he needs to have genetically engineered kids to keep him alive because he has to inject their blood into himself? I don't know, man. It's just really weird. And speaking of the kids, they're two girls. They're twins, apparently, and the show ultimately boils down to it being a sibling rivalry between the two. Now, the show, it name drops a lot of Resident Evil Easter eggs from, us seeing the original Albert Wesker, who is cloned, one of the characters being related to Marcus from Code Veronica, a name drop of William Birkin, hearing Moonlight Sonata. We also even get a giant crocodile, or alligator, which you see in a Resident Evil 2 game. And the way the show ended, it's like, oh, they're going to meet up with Ada Wong. Ooh, the tyrant has escaped captivity. But honestly, I don't think this show deserves a second season. Now, what we did get, the visuals of the original game, from the crocodile to the tyrant to Lisa Trevor, the special effects were great to create the liquor and the crocodile or alligator. The makeup for Lisa Trevor was fantastic. The zombies looked great. Now, we recently got Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City in theaters this past November, I believe. Or it could have been end of October. I don't entirely remember, but it happened late last year. And when it came out, it was without a doubt the most faithful adaptation we've gotten so far. Except for the characters. The characters were fucking terrible. None of them were even close to the characterizations from the games. But the settings, the story, game accurate. Now, Resident Evil is a series with 8 core titles. And then there's a whole bunch of spin-offs as well. Now, each game is literally perfect to adapt for television. They don't have to be a fucking movie. Instead of rushing everything in an hour and a half, 2 hours in the film, you get 8 episodes, hour-ish each. You could tell the entire story of the game. But for some reason, Hollywood doesn't get it. Resident Evil isn't just another zombie property. It has so much lore that has been created ever since the game's release. In 1996, the game itself takes place in 1998. Or maybe it was 95 it came out. It was 95 or 96. It's been a while ago. My brain isn't quite what it used to be. But it's been quite a while. Quite a few games, spin-offs. So much lore has been added. So much has been added to the story. Different viruses, different types of creatures. It's perfect for television. But instead, Hollywood is just like, you know what? Fuck the games. let's just allude that they happened and then create your own story. At the end of the day, Resident Evil 2022 Netflix, like I said, I think it had great potential, even in the fact that it was a new story centered around the main story of the games. But it's just, the show is convoluted, it's lame, it's just not a good story. It does absolutely nothing to keep you engaged. You sit there bored, and I'm very disappointed. Now, the references we do get from the games and the special effects keeps me from failing it, but I'm still giving this version of Resident Evil a big fat D. Did you enjoy the review? Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to get notified when more reviews go live. Feel free to leave a comment to discuss your thoughts on the movie or show, and I will see you next time.